Today I would like to present my final presentation, Advanced Statistics. The title is the analysis of the ratios of company financial reports influences to the return on stock listing in LQ 45 index, the 2005 until 2007. Here the abstract. First the background. Purpose of the investor to invest is to gain some money. There are many ways to get. One of them is the informations. Information can come by looking on financial statement or for financial report. The research objective of this study is to examine the ratios that contain in financial statement that influence to the return on stock. Methodology using multiple regression to try to examine the objective of the research. Introductions. First, the purpose of investors who invest funds in capital market is to obtain benefits or income from funds they invested. In achieving this objective, investors need information that reflects the condition of the company that can meet the investment objectives into the certain income. One of the basic information commonly available for investor is undoubtedly the content of financial report of public companies. The objective of financial report or financial statement is to provide information about the financial positions, performance, and changes in the financial position of an enterprise that is useful to a wide range of investors in making economic decisions. Based on the explanation above, the purpose of the study is to test several ratios of financial report that may have influences on the return of stock. The study strictly used 5 ratios: earning per shares, debt to equity ratios, return on of assets, return on equity, and operating profit margin. From the introduction, we can make some hypotheses. In this study, I have made 5 hypotheses. The first hypothesis is EPS has no influences to the return of stock, with the alternative hypothesis EPS has no influences to the return of stock. The second hypothesis is there has no influences to the return of stock, and the alternative hypothesis on the second hypothesis is that there has no influence to the return of stock. Hypothesis 3, ROA has no influence to the return of stock, and the alternative hypothesis on this third hypothesis is ROA has no influence to the return of stock. The fourth hypothesis is ROA has no influence to the return of stock, and the alternative hypothesis, the ROE has influence to the return of stock. The last hypothesis conduct is OPM has no influence to the return of stock. The alternative hypothesis of OPM has influence to the return of stock. Literature review. First, earning per share. Earning per share is the amount of earnings per each outstanding share of a company stock. Eason and Harris in 1991 were considered the earning as an explanatory variable for return. It was concluded that earning is an important element for stock valuation, and it can be used as an explanatory variable for stock return. The second is the debt to equity ratio. Debt to equity ratio, or DER, reflects the company's ability to meet its obligations shown by some section of its own capital or equity is used to pay. Debt to equity ratio is the ratio of total debt held by the company to total equity. The higher debt to equity ratio shows the composition of total debt, short and long term, greater than the total equity capital, thus impacting the greater burden of the company to outsider or creditor. Ang in 1997. Return on asset. Return on asset is one of the profitability ratios, the ratios that indicate how effectively the company operates to generate profits or earning. E.S. Clora in 2001. Return on asset is also a ratio that measures the level of profitability of a company. Return on equity. Return on equity measures the rate of return on the ownership interest shareholders' equity of the common stock owner. ROEs between 50% and 20% are generally considered good. This is conducted by study by Agung in 1997. And then the next variable is operating profit margin. Operating profit margin is operating profit for a certain period divided by revenues for the period. The higher debt to equity ratio shows the composition of total greater than the total equity capital, thus impacting the greater burden of the company to outsider. Data and methodology. The first data. Data required are stock prices of LQ45 index. The fourth quarter financial report in the period of 2005 until 2007. Methodology. Using multiple regression to see the influences of variable. Dependent variable in this study is return of stock, and the independent variables, there are 5 independent variables: EPS, DER, ROE, and OPM, as stated before. Framework and the definition of variable. Model building, we can see in here that yt plus 1 is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 xt1 minus beta 2 xt2 plus beta 3 xt3 plus beta 4 xt4 plus beta 5 xt5 plus error. This is the common multiple regression for the model building to the study, where the yt plus 1 is return of stock, b0 is a null constanta, b1 is earning per share coefficient regression, xt1 is earning per shares, b2 is debt to equity ratio or coefficient regression, xt2 is debt to equity ratio, b3 is return on asset coefficient regression, xt3 is return on asset, beta 4 is return on equity coefficient regression, xt4 is return on equity, and beta 5 operating profit margin coefficient regression, xt5 operating profit margin, and the last is E is error. Return of stock mathematically formalized as follow: RIT equal to PIT minus PIT minus 1 divided to PIT minus 1, where PIT is the current share price, then PIT minus 1 is a share price period before. Result analysis. Table first is in here is just descriptive statistic. The mean of return is 0.0491. This implies that investor who held the LQ45 stocks during 2005 until 2007 got an average return on investment of 4.95%. The mean of EPS is 1.0564. This implies that in average all the stocks listing in LQ45 had 1.0564 during 2005 until 2007. The mean of DER is 3.1057. This implies that in average all the stock listing in LQ45 had 3.1057 during 2005 until 2007. The mean of ROE is 0.99%. This implies that in average all the stock listing in LQ45 had 0.99% during 2005 until 2007. The mean of ROE is 19.02%. This implies that in average all the stocks listing in LQ45 had 19.02% during 2005 until 2007. The mean of OPM is 20.74%. This implies that in average all stocks listing in LQ45 had 20.74% during 2005 until 2007. The second table is ANOVA table. Based on the ANOVA table above, have resulted in is 12.208 with significant level of 0.001. The significance level is lower than the probability figures of 0.05. Hence, the null hypothesis is accepted. This shows that the independent variable DER, OPM together have significant impact on the stock return. In other words, there are three variables that has not varied to the model. They are EPS, ROA, and ROE. So on regression analysis result, only two variables will be analyzed according to the result used stepwise method of multiple regressions. The third result analysis is the regression analysis result. For the DER coefficient with the value of t calculated more than t table 2.262, it's more than 1.9983, then no hypothesis is rejected. This means that there is an influence of their on stock returns. Since the value of DER coefficient is negative, then it means that if the value of DER is increasing, then the value of stock return is decreasing, and vice versa. This result is supported with the previous research done by Bandari in 1988 that there is a negative relationship between DER and return on stock. For the OPM coefficient with the value of t calculated more than the t table, then null hypothesis is also rejected. Thus it means that there is an influence of OPM on stock returns. Since the value of OPM coefficient is positive 0.282, then it means that if the value of DER is increasing, then the value of stock return is increasing too, and vice versa. The last results analysis is the table for model and summary. From the above model summary, it can be concluded that the value of determination coefficient, or R square, for the DER is 0.830. This means that DER is as independent variable has a strong relationship to the dependent variable stock return. And for OPM, R square is 0.737. It also implies that OPM has a strong relationship to the dependent variable stock return. The last is conclusion. Based on the research that has been conducted, it can be concluded as follows. First, there is a partial negative correlation between DER and return on stock of the LQ45 index in the period 2005 until 2007. There is a partial positive correlation between OPM and return on stock of the LQ45 index in the period 2005 until 2007. DER and OPM with the level of significance of 5% have a significant influence to the return on stock in the period 2005 until 2007. Investor is suggested to examine the financial report, especially in the DER and OPM ratio, to manage their portfolio, so the purpose of every investor can conduct with getting some money from the return. That's all my presentation today. Thank you very much.